Coming up on So Now I've Got Breast Cancer.
It's exceptionally easy to kill cancer in a Petri dish or a test tube. And if you drop some turmeric on it, or, you can kill it. But that doesn't mean that having a lot of turmeric in your diet is going to kill cancer.
Are people really dying in 2026 because they are following extreme diets rather than having traditional treatment?
I'm sad to say that I've seen that.
We're talking breast cancer misinformation, how to spot it, why it's everywhere, and what you can do to check whether something you see online is trustworthy.
So, take a beat, try to understand what the purpose of that content was, apply the crap test, and if it's going to make an important difference to what you think you want to do, run it by your team.
This is So Now I've Got Breast Cancer, the podcast for anyone who's just been diagnosed. So today's guest, Dr. Richard Simcock, is a consultant clinical oncologist who specialises in breast cancer. He's also the Chief Medical Officer for the UK charity Macmillan Cancer Support. Now, I've known Richard for years, and we've been doing a bit of work about how to tackle misinformation online. And as I get hundreds of questions every week from you all about whether a video on TikTok is telling the truth, I knew Richard would be a great guest. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Liz. Can I just say thank you for all the work that you're doing in this space? It's so important to help people navigate to trusted information. I think you're doing an amazing job.
Thank you. I had no idea how big the job was when I started. I think it could keep me going until the day I die. But before we start, I'm always fascinated to find out why doctors choose their speciality. So what drew you to oncology and breast cancer?
I reflected on that quite a lot, and I have personal, as most of us do, we have personal experience of breast cancer. My mother died of the disease. My sister-in-law has the disease, but I was a medical specialist and I enjoyed the joys of general medicine, thinking about people's hearts, lungs, brains, how everything fits together. But nothing brought that together quite so much as cancer. So I was deeply influenced. My very first job as a junior doctor in a hospital down on the south coast, looking after people who'd had surgery for colon cancer. And I remember a surgeon, and almost a caricature of the bad communicating surgeon, standing round a patient's bed, everyone in white coats, everyone standing up, looking down on the patient and telling the patient there was nothing they could do.
Oh.
And later that day, I happened to be on the ward where the palliative care specialist came along. And the palliative care specialist said to me, never tell a patient there's nothing you can do, because there's always something you can do. And you may not be able to cure that patient. Sadly, sometimes you may not even be able to extend their lives, but there's always something you can do to make their life better. Yeah. I think that was deeply influential for me and drew me to cancer. And as you will know, but your viewers may not know, as you go through training, you do all the different diseases. So I spent time treating breast cancer, colon cancer, prostate cancer. And breast cancer actually, I think, is the most exciting cancer to treat because of the areas of therapy. So if you think about modern therapies for cancer, we have surgery, which we've had since 2000 BC.
Yes.
We've had radiotherapy, which we've had for 150 years. We've had chemotherapy, which we've had for 80, but we now have biological therapies, targeted therapies, antibody therapies, immunotherapies. And breast cancer is currently the only cancer where we routinely use all of those in the early treatment of cancer. So for me as a clinician, that gives me enormous excitement as a clinician, but it gives great hope and optimism to people affected by cancer. So I feel it's a very exciting place to be.
And times are changing so much. I have a job keeping up with the whole genomics, profiling. It's really becoming individualized, personalized treatment, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I had students with me in clinic. It was a privilege for me. And we were talking about the different subtyping of breast cancer. Mm-hmm. When I was a boy, we had two: estrogen receptor negative, estrogen receptor positive. And then when I became a consultant, we had HER2 positive. And now clinically, we have really important decisions to make on the degree of expression. So we now have HER2 negative, HER2 low, HER2 positive. And in people affected by advanced or metastatic secondary disease, we're now further subdividing, not because it's an intellectual game, but because it really makes a difference to the treatment options to that person. And that will only continue to grow. I only see that changing for the better. And I reflect that a lot of my career change was incremental. We get one thing builds upon another. I genuinely believe we're now in a period of exponential change, that actually the curve is going up like that.
Yeah.
Charlie Swanton, who just I had read today, has stepped down from the leader of the CRIC at Cancer Research UK, one of Britain's best scientists. He reported back from a conference where a US oncologist has said 90% of, Larry Norton is a very famous US oncologist, said 90% of what we know about breast cancer we learned in the last 10 years. That actually,
wow,
the degree of those precision information about the mechanics of breast cancer, what's inside the engine room of a cancer, our knowledge has exploded. And that can only be a good thing in leading to new therapeutics and new understandings.
Yeah. So for anyone listening, there is so much hope available. We have no idea what drugs will be available in the next couple of years. I think we're going to need AI to help us work out which drugs people have, because there are so many varieties. It's great. But I think the world is very different to when you and I first started training. When I was a consultant, Instagram was only just taking off. We still used Google to print out pages of research, but now you can get anything online. And I'm still amazed at how the misconceptions around breast cancer and what causes it and what the side effects are going to be like, it's still there and it's getting stronger and stronger. And I thought we could just tackle a few of those, because I'm sure I'm not the only one who's felt them. And I think the biggest thing I see is people blame themselves. I drank like a fish at medical school, Richard, and again as a junior doctor. Alcohol causes cancer. It's all my fault. And it's really hard to live with that blame. Do you get people that say that to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll often talk to people in clinic and say that breast cancer doesn't care who you are. There are some cancers that do take very careful note of lifestyle, but breast cancer there is a reason that we invite every single woman from 50 onwards for a breast screen. It's because every single woman is at risk of breast cancer. In fact, every single person is at risk of breast cancer.
Yes.
And the rates of breast cancer for men are much lower, but every single person is at risk of breast cancer. And the single most important non-modifiable risk factors for breast cancers are female gender at birth and age. So as we get older, and if I could do something about aging, I wouldn't be on this podcast, Liz. I'd be a billionaire. I'd be living in my
longevity
private
market.
Yes, exactly. In the longevity. So we can't stop ourselves getting older. And there are things which make small differences to risk, and they do add up across societies. So we know that wealthier societies have more breast cancer because of some of those risks. But the contribution to an individual's risk is actually tiny.
It is, isn't it?
And I see people who've worked really hard on their physical health. They go to the gym, they drink moderate or alcohol or no alcohol at all, they don't smoke, and they are very, very angry that they got breast cancer. But actually, breast cancer doesn't care.
It doesn't. And I think for anyone listening, it is not your fault, no matter what you see online or in the media or in the press. It's just sneaky and it just happens. I think a lot of people are very scared about starting some of the treatments. For example, the hormonal therapy. And as a breast surgeon, I was terrified of starting tamoxifen. I used to tell women, you'll get a few hot flushes and a bit of vaginal dryness and you'll be fine. I'd never listened to what patients were feeling, and suddenly I'm going to go through it at 40. And it's like the internet is TripAdvisor. The people having a really tough time are shouting the loudest, and those who are getting along fine can't be asked to tell you. How can we help women understand and go through the fears of the treatment they're going to be on for years and years?
Well, they're absolutely right to be concerned about it. One of the there are many cruelties and many ironies about breast cancer, but one of them is that you feel fine until the doctors get hold of you.
Yes, you have no symptoms.
Yeah,
and
so
then
you may have a lump which is terrifying you, but physically you feel absolutely fine. It's very rare that breast cancer in its early stages causes any symptoms at all, and then someone like me gets hold of you, then you start to feel it, because I give treatments which cause side effects. So that's one of the many difficult ironies. So people are absolutely right to be concerned about side effects, and so are we. And we take a lot of time to hopefully to explain those properly. But we are good at helping people manage side effects. And what I often will say to people is that Having a side effect is an excellent reason to stop a therapy, to modify a therapy, to dose reduce a therapy. But worrying that you might get it may not be the best reason not to start it. Cancer is full of uncertainty. And one of the uncertainties people have is, how will this drug affect me? Well, actually, one of the ways to find that out is in collaboration with your medical team is to start it, to take note and to agree that you're going to go back and have a discussion about how it's affecting you. And not, let's be honest, not every side effect can be managed 100% of the time, but lots of side effects can be mitigated, can be reduced successfully, and can be the treatment can be tailored to the person. So it is am I allowed to use the word journey? Have we banned the word journey?
We can use the journey word. Because it is. It's like a roller coaster, isn't it?
So as you embark on that journey, it's taking steps of understanding how is this going to affect you? Because we are all gloriously individual. We still don't understand why drug A is perfectly well tolerated by this woman, but causes terrible side effects for this other woman. And as a medical team, we should be saying, look, actually, this is what happens most of the time. This is what happens some of the time. And we will help you if you get difficult side effects. And that should be a starting position, that it is a journey of discovery and that there'll always be ways to help.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you can't compare yourself to anybody because they're not you. And it's asking for help. You don't need to suffer in silence. I did. I'm a doctor. I thought I should know what to do. And I reached out to you, I remember, on Twitter saying, how do I cope? It's like, oh my God, there's help available. So please, if you're struggling with treatment side effects, please ask your team, because there are things they can do. I think one of the huge misconceptions that I get asked about a lot is diet. People want to know, did my diet cause my cancer, and can diet stop my cancer coming back? And I get hundreds of questions from people seeing what's happening online. But are you seeing that in clinical practice?
Absolutely. And I have absolutely no problem in understanding where that comes from. There is nothing we do to our bodies more often than put food inside it. And we are besieged from every angle by messaging about food, some of it very well intentioned, some of it coming from conventional medical quarters, some coming from people with a commercial interest. Food is everywhere, right? It's instinctive and natural and normal to think that food has an important role to play. The data standards that we apply, the evidence standards that we apply, don't give us clear signals that there are foodstuffs that directly lead to cancer. The most important link is obesity. So the amount of foods that we eat, and we live in what researchers would call an obesogenic environment. We're surrounded by things that are intended to make us overeat. And people haven't quite yet worked out, is it the stuff that we are eating, or is it the end result of what we have eaten that leads to excess body fatness that can increase the risk of breast cancer? Most carcinogens, whether it be smoking or radiation exposure, have an exceptionally long lag time, which is the interval from being exposed to that carcinogen and developing a cancer, because that is usually measured in many years and often in decades.
So just for people listening, 10, 20 years for the effect of smoking every day to cause lung cancer or drinking every day to cause breast cancer. It's not one drink when you're 20 and that's it.
Exactly so. So that reassures us about the things that we're doing there. It also, I should say, also implies that things that we do right today aren't going to make an immediate difference. The other part about eating, which I think is really important, is about control.
Yes.
Breast cancer is an experience in losing control. There's a great writer that people will know, and you may know, called Susan Sontag, a woman who died of a blood cancer, but actually had a breast cancer earlier in her life. And she wrote that breast cancer is the disease which enters without knocking. And what I think she meant by that is that you feel a lump, you have a mammogram, and suddenly, boom, your life has changed. It's flipped on its axis. Yeah. And, if you'd had a cough for several months and back and forth to the GP, and then you're feeling a bit wheezy, and then finally a diagnosis of lung cancer is made, tragic and difficult, but you kind of saw it coming.
Yeah, you kind of expect it to be something serious, don't you?
Yeah. Whereas breast cancer, you find a lump, and by the time you've towelled yourself off in the shower, by the time you've towelled yourself dry and on the phone to the GP, in your head you've already got cancer, or you get a recall, and suddenly, and And then a week later, you're in a clinic with someone like me, who you've never met before.
Yeah.
And I'm laying out how I think you should be spending the next 6 months or maybe 5 years of your life. And it's an exercise in relinquishing control, which is deeply uncomfortable.
I hated it. The surgeon in me, I want control. I want to be in control of something that might help.
And what thing is more readily in your power to take control of than the things that you put in your body, the things that you eat? And everyone knows that eating healthily is a good thing. Yeah. So I think it's absolutely understandable that you would say, well, surely I can do something for myself. And the most obvious place to start is nutrition. And for what it's worth, my advice is that we want you to be a healthy human. And a woman with breast cancer is not a life support machine for her breasts. She is a whole human being. And and being a healthy human means looking after your heart, means looking after your cholesterol, so it's the normal rules of healthy eating, which most of us already understand. It's a diet that's rich in fruit and vegetables, moderate of animal fat, low in red meat, moderate in alcohol, and absent of nicotine. And they're my rules. And I think some people I talk to are a bit disappointed that I'm not telling them exactly how many grams of walnuts to eat or how much kale to juice.
And I think I never told my patients what to eat because I assumed everyone knows you just eat a healthy diet with a load of fruit and veg. I didn't realize there are 10,000 cancer diet books on Amazon. Most of them written by people who have no nutrition experience at all. We're desperate for a cure. And there are some really extreme cases. There are people who are choosing to juice instead of have chemotherapy. And are people really dying in 2026 because they are following extreme diets rather than having traditional treatment?
I'm sad to say that I've seen that. And
really?
Not often, but you remember these cases. They weigh very heavy on you as a physician. But I've been involved in a few cases over the years with people whose belief in nutrition as medicine, and I do believe that food can be medicine, it can be helpful, but their belief in food as medicine was so powerful that they thought that would be the answer to their problem, that it wasn't just an adjunct, it wasn't just something that was going to help them feel better and cope better with therapy and live a healthier life afterwards. They thought it would be the entire therapy for their cancer and could not be persuaded otherwise. And unfortunately, I have seen people die as a consequence of that, as recently as last year. And the case I was involved with last year deeply affected many members of our team because we felt that was an avoidable death. And that person's belief was so fixed, their faith in food was so great that we couldn't shift them. And I think it's also fair to say it wasn't just faith in food; it was fear of what we were offering.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about religion. It really can be a religion, and I think for some people, that belief is the church they need to pray in to get them through cancer. But as you've said, it can go too far. And I used to get really angry when patients did that. I had a woman want to go on a juicing retreat instead of radiotherapy. And I said, your cancer's going to come back and you're going to die and don't blame me. The wrong thing to say. As a doctor, it's so hard to accept when people have different ideas to you. Do you find that hard?
Yes, I do. I think it's about different standards of evidence. I think if someone comes to me who has an entirely different, separate belief system, so let's say that they believed in something entirely, so traditional Chinese medicine, for example, traditional Chinese medicine is built on an entirely different construct to the way I've been trained in science. And I would have to say, look, that is not the way I understand the body. This is the way I understand the body. And these are the rules, if you like, of engagement that I would have. What I find difficult, and I'll use a modern word, it triggers me a little, is when people bring to me stuff that fits within my belief system. So the rules of science, but the rules of science have been badly represented or misunderstood or abused by the people who are presenting that. And that's what I'll be honest. This is about being honest. It does irritate and annoy, and it's about how do you share that in an open and honest way. And you will understand this well, but I think the best example of that is when there is science that has appeared to work in the test tube.
Yes.
And people have then taken that to be evidence that it will work in the complex human body. And you will know through your scientific background, it's exceptionally easy to kill cancer in a Petri dish or a test tube. And if you drop some turmeric on it, or, you can kill it. But that doesn't mean that having a lot of turmeric in your diet is going to kill cancer. And let's be honest, scientists abuse that too, because they'll do some work in the lab. They want to show the world that they're doing important and good science. So they write press releases about it. Journalists like that kind of work because they can write a piece about how blueberries help cancer. But then the extrapolation, the leap from, well, this worked in a test tube or in a laboratory 10 years ago, that to the leap to this will now help me in my battle with this cancer now is a leap too far. And trying to explain that to people is hopefully time well spent, but it is time consuming. Yeah. But if people come to you, they've researched it, they've put effort, they've put work into it. And then you have to say, well, actually, this is why I think that what the conclusion you've come to is incorrect. And that should be done sensitively. And I don't think I've always done that very well, because I get a little bit triggered, a little bit annoyed, and could do better.
But it's really hard, because it's not just matcha tea was the last thing I investigated. To get the dose of matcha tea they were giving cells in the lab, you'd need to drink 135 cups in an hour. People don't see this, but there are so many videos and podcasts all saying the same thing. And then you're that one sole voice. And we're not doing clever marketing. We're not selling anything. And it's really hard to get a voice heard. Let's talk about how we can help the listeners work out what's nutribolics, what is bullshit, what is fake, and what is real. And I know you talk about the Skylar Johnson crap test, don't you?
Yeah. Can
you tell us all about it? Because I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, so I think the crap test is helpful, and it's not how you screen for colon cancer, in case people are wondering about that. It's an acronym. And actually, Skylar Johnson was an oncologist, but actually it was a librarian, Sarah Blakesley from California, I think, first came up with it. And it stands for currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose. It's a kind of stress test for where has this information come from, and should I believe it? And actually, you could apply it in different walks of life. When you hear your favourite or least favoured politician on the radio, you might want to apply this. But so C is for currency. How relevant, how recent is this information? Is this based on a study that was done 20 years ago, or is this done on a study that was done last year? Because as we've talked about already, breast cancer is in an area of exponential improvement. So things that might have been relevant 15 years ago may not be relevant today. And that brings us to the R, which is relevance. How relevant is it to your particular situation? Do you have an estrogen receptor positive breast cancer? And is this a test that was done on triple negative breast cancer, for example? Yeah. Or very often, was it not done on breast cancer at all?
And if something says they can cure cancer, there are 200 different types of cancer. There are probably over 50 different varieties of breast cancer. You only do breast cancer. There's nothing that does everything. So it's digging down. Is this relevant for me?
A is for authority, and I think authority is a little problematic because it speaks to privilege, that actually people saying, well, I'm the big author. But actually there is something about what is the credibility, the scientific background. Is this coming from a well-researched, well-funded laboratory that done lots of good work in this area, or is this someone we've never heard of before who published this one? I recently did a deep dive on a diagnostic test that was being marketed by a private clinic in London. And the research was done by a research team. They published this one paper. They'd never published anything before. They'd never published anything since. And that makes you deeply suspicious of where it was coming from.
And I think another thing with authority is the term doctor. Because people see doctor and assume they're doctors like you and I trained in cancer, but there are lots of different types, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely right. And particularly in the US, where there are different ways of claiming the title doctor. There is a different version of the crap, which is a double A, which is the second A is accuracy. Has this been reported properly? what is the statistical power? So a test, if you get a test that's done in 10 people and 3 people have, well, actually, that's much less reliable, and we're not going to think so much as a test that's done in 1,000 people. And most of the drugs that I am talking about in clinic will have been done in trials of many hundreds and often sometimes thousands of patients. So they've got statistical accuracy. And then the final letter in it is P for purpose. To what purpose has this person or this organization put this information out there? Is there financial incentive? Is it their business? Are they advertising it? Are they scientists who are just part of a bigger project? So trying to understand the intent and purpose of this information being in the first place. And this is not just, and I think the CRAP test is just a way of taking a moment, taking a beat to apply some intellectual curiosity about, is this information I should trust? And there is reason to do that in all aspects of our life now that we are besieged by information from every different angle. And it's not a bad test to apply to information that you see around cancer.
I think it's so important. And for me, is someone making money out of this? Are they selling a book? Are they selling a course? And I know in America, when chemo can cost $250,000, you may think a 50-grand clinic in Mexico is worth it. But generally the stuff you see online, and it's the claims, is it too good to be true? You know, we offer you a cure. No one can do that. And it's just stepping back, because you wouldn't buy a car like that. You wouldn't buy a house like that. And I think AI is making it worse. You can get deep fakes. There are 3 fake Facebook accounts of me, and they say I live in Suffolk. It looks like me. The details are right. Selling parasite cures for cancer. It's really scary. They can take my voice. They can mimic me. Who do you trust? And with things like ChatGPT and Claude, if there's so much information about one test that's fake, it believes it's true because there's so much information out there. Because doctors like you and I aren't online saying chemo's a great drug, but it'll make you feel like shit and it might kill you.
People look for information, and there is a lot of information to be had. It used to be that your source of information was the clinic, and now that all the world's information and misinformation is available literally at a few keystrokes, it allows people to go down to some pretty deep rabbit holes.
Yeah. And there's a lot of clever marketing and clever wording. It's like the hook to draw you in, to make you think it's true. All these funnels that get you to buy. I always kind of say, try and find it reproduced on 2 or 3 independent websites. So, you know, someone who's not making money has also said this works. So where can we go to get sensible, accurate information?
Well, the place to start is with your own team. And because they're people that you're going to be seeing the most of. And I would hope that that's a relationship that is founded on good intention and trust. So I'd say, where could I learn some more? Where could I get more information? And you won't be surprised to know that as Chief Medical Officer from Macmillan, I'd say a very good place to start is the Macmillan website. And we put a lot of effort into making sure that the information that we put out is credible, authoritative, free of bias. So we will give information about new drugs with no input from pharmaceutical companies. So it's absolutely free of bias. And one of the ways that we validate and, if you like, quality assure the information that we give is that we have something called the PIF tick. A PIF tick is a sign of credibility. You don't get one easily. I think you have one. I think it stands for Patient Information Forum. You have to go through a lot of work to prove that everything you're saying is accurate, don't you? So they're an independent forum. Their job is to make sure that what people are saying is accurate, is credible. They also do a good job in making sure that we're free of jargon, because there's no point in explaining things if the way you're explaining it is not understandable. And we are at Macmillan, we're proud owners of the PIF tick, as are other charities like Breast Cancer Now and Cancer Research UK. So these charities, you go back to my CRAP test, our purpose is to make sure that people have access to high quality information that helps them make the decisions that are right for them. I'm aware that sometimes the information that we provide won't be enough for some people, because one size does not fit all. We try to give a level of information which we think is going to cover most bases, but there will some people who will want to dive deeper. The people who are watching this now are people who are interested to know more. And so sometimes that level of information will not be enough. And in that case, you may need the guidance of a specialist nurse or your doctor to say, I'd like to know more about this. What are the source references that can help me understand?
Yeah.
Now, that requires some patience and a degree of self-education in how to understand that source material. But I've seen patients who've done that very successfully. And I actually really like a good conversation where if someone's actually brought in the source material and taken the effort to read the paper and say, well, what about this? For me, I find that a fascinating and good conversation. It'd be fair to say that some of my colleagues wouldn't feel the same way. They'd feel a bit challenged by that. But for me, I think that's a really interesting conversation to have where someone's actually gone to the effort to say, I'm actually going to read the paper that led to this drug being licensed.
Yeah. And I think you do have to take ownership, and you will probably end up knowing more than your own consultant about your illness. And it's learning what to look, and you have to kind of search for the pros and the cons against a treatment, because if all you're looking for is does matcha cure cancer, that's all you'll find. And I think that's a nuance that a lot of people don't have. And we all have the attention span of a gnat. We just read the first headline and move on. So it's really hard. I think for me, we're not hiding the cure for cancer. So I remember when I was 21, 22, and I decided to do breast surgery, and this old guy got on the stage, this old fart of a surgeon, said, you'll be out of a job. Breast cancer won't exist. You'll be cured. Go and do something else. And, oh, my goodness, it hasn't happened yet. Doctors aren't selling you cures. We're not making money off you. We are not hiding the cure. If it worked, we would give it to you tomorrow. We're not holding it back. And people believe this, the whole big pharma. Doctors are hiding stuff. They don't want you to have the drugs. And it's like a cult that you can go down this. How can we help people realize that we are the good guys, really?
Well, it's interesting to think about where that comes from in the first place. And let's take some responsibility for that. You know, I do have conflicts of interest. I have collaborated with pharmaceutical companies on research trials. There are things called advisory boards where you meet with drug companies and they help them design the best trial to test your drug. And as part of that, I've received payment. And once you receive payment for something, people will start saying the usual insult is you're a shill for the pharmaceutical industry, that you're just a paid lackey of the insurance and the pharmaceutical industry. And so we have to take some responsibility for that you can create a lens where it does look as though that we are corrupted by pharmaceutical influence. And there was a time when I think you can show that pharmaceutical influence on doctors' prescribing habits was malign. Yes. The influence was, there are now some very strict rules led by some self-regulation in the drug industry called the ABPI, which try to reduce that. But let's own the fact that is likely to cause suspicion amongst people affected by cancer. And, I think that suspicion is not unhealthy, and we should own that, and we should be honest about our conflicts of interest and talk about our relationships with the drug industry. But our motivations are to do better for people with cancer. When I'm talking to people about having treatments to reduce their risk of cancer coming back, so we hope they've been cured by an operation, but we're offering these adjuvant therapies, hormones, radiotherapy, and sometimes chemotherapy, to reduce the risk of cancer coming back. I'll often say to patients in clinic, in this example, I want you to think of me as an insurance salesman. I'm assessing your risk. I'm going to offer you a premium to reduce your risk, and you need to decide if you want to pay that premium in terms of your personal cost. And I say, I think that analogy stands up in every way except for the fact that I am not on commission. I will not be paid more or less depending on whether or not you accept this therapy. And it's about building trust and having an open and honest conversation. It's about, should I do this? And we talked about crap before. Before you have crap, you need to have your brand. Can I just talk about brand?
Yeah, brand. So, this is not the stuff I eat to make me poo, is it?
No, so brand
to make
is
me crap.
So brand is a good framework for trying to make a good decision that's right for you. And it's another acronym, and it stands for the benefits, the risks, the alternatives, and do nothing. And if a person is thinking about having a treatment, I think four very good questions to go into that consultation are with their team is to say, what do you think the benefit of this therapy is going to be for me? B, what are the risks of this therapy going to be for me? What are the alternatives? What else could I do instead of this? And then the really key question is, what does it mean if I do nothing? And I think doing nothing should always be the barometer against which or the example that you should hold up against the therapy. So before you look at crap, have some bran.
It's basically the principles of informed consent. Before I can operate on someone, I have to tell them all of this. But people selling you shit online don't. They just tell you what the benefits are. They don't tell you what happens if you don't take it. Is it going to work? And you don't hear that. And you can challenge them. If you see someone online selling it, go in the comments and say, but what are the risks? Prove to me it works. I think that's brilliant. I'm going to do the bran and then I'm going to do the crap. Literally. Now, you mentioned earlier, just quickly, ideally we talk with the team about supplements and things you want to take. But for some people, they're discharged after 2 weeks post-radiotherapy. They don't see them again. And it can be very, very hard getting through to your team when you don't have one. But everyone says, ask your doctor if it's safe to take the supplement. Are there places we can go? What do you do? It's really hard.
So there are some deeper dive resources. And for people who are particularly thinking about supplements, nutritional supplements, botanicals, herbs, etc.
Is that the
MSK
Memorial
herbs.
Sloan Kettering about botanicals and herbs? We'll put a link in the show notes.
So the Memorial Sloan Kettering, big famous cancer hospital in the States, they have a big department, so-called integrative oncology. And what I like about that source, a lot of this conversation is adversarial. There'll be people say, oh, I don't believe in any of that rubbish. Yeah. And other people saying this is the answer. MSK Herbs is not at all adversarial. It presents a brand. This is the benefits. These are the risks. Yeah. This is what people say that this does. This is what could happen. And it presents information in a way which I think allows people to make an informed choice about what they wish to do. I think peer support can also be very helpful. And I think the Breast Cancer Now Moving Forward courses are a very good way to find peer support for a person who's coming to the end of treatment for an early breast cancer, an opportunity to meet with other people who've been through the same experience, facilitated, and just exploring shared experience. And then there are, again, we have Macmillan resources around some of the more common supplements, but not everything that's out there because there is just so much out there.
I know. And I haven't heard of half of them, and I have to do hours of research. Now, we talked briefly about ChatGPT, and I wanted your view on asking it questions because I've done it. I shouldn't admit to this in public. My dog has had cancer and his back was a bit sore, and I asked ChatGPT, has my dog's cancer come back? And suddenly it's, oh my God, he's dying, go to the vet. It was just a sprained muscle. But it can be dangerous going down that route, but often it's all we have. What do you think about asking ChatGPT questions? Are there ways we can do it properly, or should we just avoid it?
No, I don't think we should avoid it. You know, it's part of our life now. I've heard doctors say to patients, oh, you shouldn't Google this. Who would not Google?
I used to say that. Yeah. It's horseshit. It's the first thing I did. And I was a breast surgeon.
Who would not Google something in the modern age? Other search engines are available, but you know,
yes.
who would not search something in the modern age? And now we're transitioning to an age where who would not use AI? We have seen at Macmillan examples where the information scrape, the AI summary in certain areas has contained falsehoods or misrepresented or overinflated claims because it doesn't always distinguish between a study that contained 1,000 patients and a study that contained just 10 patients. It will see it as relevant, distill it and bring it out. So what ChatGPT still does, and it may stop doing, is it still gives a link to the source information. So if there's a piece of information there that you think is highly relevant or it's going to change your, might inform your decision making in a positive or a negative way, I'd really encourage you to click on the link. Where did they get that information from? And then apply the crap test to it and say, okay, has ChatGPT pulled the right information through for me? Because if you ChatGPT something you know really well, that's a good test, and it will usually show you that there are inaccuracies in it.
Yeah, it's a great tip. Another thing I'd say is at the end of asking ChatGPT or Claude your question, ask, have you got any questions? Get it to ask you questions. It will say, why do you want to know this? What are you looking for? And then it will know what you're trying to find the answer to. And that can help make it a bit more streamlined. I could talk to you for hours about this, Richard, but I just wanted to ask, is there one thing you could recommend my listeners do before they act on a video or a podcast that they've seen or heard?
So take a beat. Try to understand what the purpose of that content was. Apply the crap test. And if it's going to make an important difference to what you think you want to do, run it by your team. Check in with your clinical nurse specialist, say. And there are multiple ways to do that more easily. Drop an email, leave a message with the helpline and say, I'm thinking about this. Could someone just sense check this for me? And people would hopefully, and I can't guarantee that would always happen, but people would hopefully come back to you with a reasoned response about their attitude to it. I absolutely want people to have control, but I don't want people to come to harm from taking decisions that were badly informed.
And I think that's it. You don't know what the risks could be, and it's just stop and double check. Thank you so much, Richard. It's been brilliant to talk to you, and I'll see you later.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
That was Richard Simcock, consultant oncologist and chief medical officer of Macmillan. And you can get all the details for the website in the show notes. Now, if you enjoyed listening to this episode of So Now I've Got Breast Cancer, please give us a 5-star rating, follow, subscribe, and share this with your friends and family online so I can help as many people as possible. I'm Dr. Liz O'Riordan. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time. So Now I've Got Breast Cancer is produced by Birdline Media.